We're now live. There we are. We're now live, Vicki. Okay, so we'll just give it a few minutes just to get views and things and let everybody get caught up to us. I'm just checking to see if it has appeared on my phone. Yep, everything seems to be working. I'm just going to check. Okay, so hello to everybody that is joining us. I'm just going to hang fire a couple of minutes and let everybody catch up and join it. We've got nine people. Right, okay, so the views are going up. We're getting there. Okay. So hi everybody and welcome to this session with Vicki Simpson Price. Those of you who've been with us before might recognise Vicki. She's been around the college quite a bit. She's delivered our sleep and social media sessions as well as a number of others, so you might have met her there, and you might have also seen her last week with Jason during our live DNA Wellbeing Refreshers events. But Vicki's with us today with something brand new. Vicki, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you've got for us today?
Yeah, essentially I'm going to be showing you a bit of a presentation where we're going to be discussing obviously the current feelings of being really quite unmotivated, as well as study anxiety, because obviously a lot has changed, particularly for students, and obviously the staff and generally people working from home. So a lot of that has actually changed. So we're going to be kind of going through some of the things that you're probably feeling. And really discuss techniques. We're going to start moving into actual techniques, tried and tested techniques. In other words, getting your neurology to work for you. That's essentially what we're going to be kind of talking about today, and how that then underpins, and we begin to discuss the word resilience and actually what is it. That word resilience gets bounced around like Skittles a lot, but nobody actually kind of knows what it is, what the skills are, and actually what we can do on a day-to-day basis to try to build that. So hopefully you find this interesting.
Fantastic. So Vicki, I'm going to bow out now, and I will see you again very briefly at the end, and I'm going to leave you to it. Okay, folks, enjoy.
Right, okay guys, so essentially we're just going to be having a bit of a chat, as I'd said before, with regards to kind of motivation, anxiety surrounding study stresses and anxieties with that. And generally I'm going to be talking about a couple of really clever methods that essentially is going to get you hopefully back on track and able to offer a bit of a more palatable and chunking way of focusing on your day-to-day. So first of all, we need to kind of ask this question. How many of you do a check-in every day? How many of you do a check-in several times a day? How are you feeling? Generally, as I've been working with students and certainly private clients and speaking with staff as well, and generally every day-to-day people have just been saying that generally they've been feeling very unmotivated. Okay, it's not just you that's feeling like this. I myself can honestly say, hand on heart, there has been days where I've also been feeling like this as well. A lot of you may very well be feeling lethargic. You might be feeling tired, you're sleeping lots, no energy. You may very well feel as though your body clock's actually been turned quite upside down. You may very well be kind of moving into vampire hours, awake all night and sleeping all day. You feel like giving up. Now, this has actually been a huge theme I've been hearing coming out, and generally this feeling of what's the point, what's the purpose, where am I going with this? How long is this lockdown going to last? What's going to happen once we start to come out of this lockdown? Lots and lots of questions that are feeding in certainly to this unmotivated feeling. Lonely. A lot of us, even despite living with people, are actually feeling quite lonely. We're feeling isolated. We're generally feeling quite cut off from the world. And for those of you who are used to going into campus, who are used to being there in class, who are used to being actually quite skills orientated, etc., this feeling of not getting in and being around people and being around your peers and just generally being around people on campus, for instance, you are going to feel isolated. A lot of you are actually feeling not confident at all, specifically around your studies and generally being able to manage technology. Now, certainly even this morning, Carolyn and I had a technology kind of boo-boo, is the way you would want to say it. But generally, the confidence aspect is really, really low at the moment. And can I also say that genuinely it's not just you that's feeling like this, it's also staff, it's general feelings. People are feeling not very confident at all at the moment. A feeling of being out of control. Now, that is quite normal, very much with what's going on at the moment. You know, the only thing we can control really at this point in stage is us and our responses. So hence why I'm stepping in today to try and discuss with you how you can respond to your current day-to-day. Trying to forget about everything that's going on outside for a second, just to try and pull that control level back. So actually you focus very much on your particular responses that will then make you feel more confident. You may be feeling very worried, anxious, stressed, asking yourself the question, what's next? What's happening? I don't know how to do this. I can't get in touch with people. Certainly, emails take a lot longer for responses rather than just a quick 5-minute phone call. However, we're all being pushed to work online, and certainly the length of timeline in order to get information back is obviously taking a lot longer, and it is making certainly students feel a heck of a lot more stressed. And again, as I said before, what's going to happen next? So for those of you who are actually finishing college this year, for those of you who might be going on to university or have decided to go out and actually look for jobs, you've got this huge question, what's going to happen next? And generally, I completely understand, and that's very much a justified thought process. But at this moment in time, I'm going to encourage you to try and focus a little more where you're at the moment, if you can. And can I just say, all of this is normal. Everything you're feeling is completely and utterly normal. So, we're going to speak about resilience just a little bit, okay? The 7 skills of resilience are having a belief in yourself, believing that actually you can do this, more to the point that you'll at least give it a try. Asking for help and staying connected, okay? Nothing wrong with being able to put your hand up and say, actually, I'm struggling with this, please. Is there any chance you could give me a hand with this? Or bouncing off your thought processes with your peers, or certainly people within your class. Normalise how you feel by talking to others. Generally, sometimes picking up the phone or even going online, having a video call, for instance, helps you normalise, because that other person may very well turn and go, yeah, I feel exactly the same. And you get a sense of, well, thank goodness it's not just me. Help other people. In other words, we are all within this same situation. We're all within the same boat. However, all of our experiences are very much unique, depending on us and our feelings and where we're at. Activate positive emotions. Okay, now this can be done a million different ways in order to activate positive emotions. And certainly what I'm going to do today is I'm going to discuss particularly a couple of techniques which may very well help with that activation of those positive emotions. And actually having a good attitude, a good work ethic, being able to say to yourself, I'm going to get this started today and I'm going to attempt to try and finish it. Or even just making a start and then walking away will generally make you feel a little bit better. Find a meaning for starting and finishing something as well. At the moment, we're kind of lacking a meaning, we're lacking a purpose. So generally I would say create one. So for instance, if you know that this is going to be your last course, or you know that you're away to go on to another course, for instance, use that as a meaning, use that as a structured purpose to actually say, I need to get this finished because I need to then move on to. So build it by doing, okay? So generally getting enough sleep, generally kind of looking at trying to see if you can get enough sleep. Bedtime routine is massive. Bedtime routine is huge, all right? And actually, as far as exercise is concerned as well, get active. Getting a little bit of exercise, going for a walk, anything along those lines. If you have animals or you have a dog, taking your dog for a walk, activates these positive emotions that I've been talking about, okay? Being aware of your mood dips, doing a check-in. How am I feeling right now? Give yourself a number from 0 to 10. Where am I on that 0 to 10 scale? 10 being really good, really happy. 0 being flat as a pancake. Where are you? Then do something about it. Okay, so generally actually getting out and trying to speak to others, phoning people, getting in contact with your tutor if there's any issues. Take a negative thought and try to spin it around. So again, we're activating positive thoughts. That's actually something called perspective training. Being able to take something and actually look at the other side, give it a different perspective. Are you being too negative? Are you pulling yourself down? Are you telling yourself you can't do it as opposed to saying you can? Choosing a better response, okay? Certainly, there's been a lot of people that have chosen to actually turn towards substances, certainly during this period. So in other words, I can't be bothered today, so I'm just going to go and sit and have a drink or something else. Generally choosing better responses. If you're struggling, if you're unsure, try going for a walk first and then coming back and seeing how you feel about the task at hand in front of you. And as I said before, there's that word perspective. So maintaining a reasonable perspective. Generally trying to look at this and actually think, this is your journey, this is where you're at. What do you need to do to cultivate a better attitude? Forget about other people and forget about what's going outside just for a moment. You're needing to build your own internal resilience. Imagine being able to say you've completed your studies and you've completed something big whilst going through pandemic. That's pretty big going. And generally that shows resilience through and through if you've managed to push through all of the hardships that's certainly been going on externally in order to still succeed and remain on your goal path. So, anxieties around study, okay? A few of you very well might be feeling just very anxious, worried, you're procrastinating. So in other words, you'd rather go and do other things rather than actually looking towards your study. Some of you may very well be chewing your nails, biting the skin around it. Some of you might be feeling sick, nervous, sleep problems. There's a whole host of things that are potentially coming out surrounded around the actual study anxiety. For most people, they are used to going into class. They're used to having face-to-face tutorials. They're used to having their peers and study peer support around them. But at this stage, obviously, it's completely different. We're being forced online. We're being forced through and through to just study online. And actually, what we're starting to become accustomed to seeing is these little black squares where everyone's got their camera off. Just a note and a side note to say, remember that lecturers and teachers and people even like myself who work online a lot, we get a lot out of reciprocation. We get a lot out of seeing you, seeing your face, generally talking to you, human to human, being contact. So just sitting there with your camera switched off and having a black square, that really does impact us and it impacts the lecturers and impacts the teachers. We get a lot out of seeing you and obviously getting an understanding that you are understanding what we're trying to teach you, if that makes sense. So actually, for us, seeing the black squares and none of you kind of showing us your faces, that can make us feel anxious as well. So that's just something to remember. But generally, study anxiety is a big thing. It's certainly shot through the roof in terms of, particularly this second lockdown, because certainly we're in winter and everything as well, which has obviously had an impact. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss just a few different methods with you now on how essentially we can chunk up our day and feel as though we're in a lot more control. Now, remember the resilience aspects of things. We're really wanting to choose a good control response. So, I'm going to introduce to you the Goldilocks dilemma. Okay, so how to get started? Can I just say that if the work is far too difficult, or if we're perceiving it to be too difficult, or really, really easy, we are more likely to procrastinate. We're more likely just to pop it to the side and say, oh God, I'll get to that later. If it's too difficult, I can't do this, you're getting anxious, you're getting worried, you're losing sleep over it, actually you are more likely to just leave it. If it's far too easy, I'll do it tomorrow, it's dead easy, it'll take me 5 minutes. More likely to procrastinate. So we're going to use the Goldilocks method. We want to find the middle ground. We want to find something that isn't too difficult, not too easy, but something that challenges us just enough to get the good old thinking process started. So in other words, we're looking for the just right piece of information or piece of work. Choose something that will obviously, as I said, challenge you in a comfortable way, something you know you can do. Then trust me, once you've got that out of the way, you're more likely then to move on to the more difficult task and obviously get the easy task out of the way as well. By starting this way, you're engaging something called the models of attention in the perfect sequence, okay? This actually also includes exercise. Sometimes if we deem an exercise as being far too difficult, we're less likely to try it. And sometimes going for a walk, we think it's just a walk. But actually thinking about something that's going to challenge you a little bit, that actually, is how you would want to try and start exercising. Just a little bit of a challenge. It's about working clever. It's about generally thinking, how can I start this? How do I want to start this piece of work? Or, my tutor or lecturer has asked me to get this piece of work submitted by Friday. I'm deeming it too difficult. Well, actually, is there a part of it within that work that you think you could maybe try first? Something that's just right, something that just is comfortable enough for you to do, which then will allow you to move on to the more difficult spaces thereafter. I'm also going to introduce you to something that looks dead simple, dead basic, dead easy, but it's called the Eisenhower matrix, okay? This is actually how I work, and I generally do work this way and actually in terms of importance, so prioritizing work. The Goldilocks method also feeds into this. So if it's important and it's urgent, try to do it now. However, if the task is really difficult or hard, we have a tendency to want to ignore it. But don't do that. Let's pop it in the do next box. Maybe we need to ask for help for that, okay? Certainly if it's important, urgent, and you know you can do it now. That's how you can prioritize that. If it's not so important, and actually it's not really, really urgent, but it needs done at some point, pop that to the side to actually do it later, okay? But if it is important, but not as urgent, have set it into the to do next pile. Generally, this is how I work, and this has really stood me in good stead over a lot of years of study as well, is I actually genuinely prioritize in terms of importance, but also in terms of challenge. So if I find certain things very, very, very challenging, I will actually pop them to the side and I'll start with more the just right pieces of work to begin with, and then I'll move on to the challenge side of it after. The very, very easy stuff, sometimes I'll tend to get that out of the way first, but it really does depend on how you want to work. But remember the Eisenhower matrix, okay? And certainly this is something I'm going to send through and we're going to pop up for you, so you can all have access to this. And I would say even print it out. Sometimes I print it out and I write down in the boxes what I need to do. So I'm also going to introduce you to something called the Pomodoro Method. Now, it sounds really, really funny. But generally, Pomodoro, okay, means to break your workday into 25-minute chunks. Now, from a psychological perspective, we think in chunks. If I asked you to think of a telephone number, weirdly enough, you chunk it up in order to remember it. Chunking is a fantastic and phenomenal way in order to remember pieces of information, but also to feel in control, okay? So this is where Pomodoro comes in. So I asked you to break your workday into 25-minute chunks separated by 5 to 10-minute breaks. These intervals are referred to as Pomodoros, okay? You're going to roughly do about 4 Pomodoros in each cycle, and then you take a break for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now I'm going to break this down a little bit further for you. So, a method for staying focused and mentally fresh, okay? So pick your task. Step 1, pick your task. This is where the Goldilocks dilemma comes in, okay? This is where the Eisenhower matrix may very well come in. Pick your task. Pick something just right to start. Then set a 25-minute timer. You're no doubt you'll be like everybody else, your phone's going to be beside you. Set the timer on your phone. Put it face down, push it slightly away from you, and actually set the timer for 25 minutes and set about your task, okay? Then when your timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. You're then going to do steps 1 to 4 for 4 times, okay? Literally 4 times. Then what you're going to do, for every 4 Pomodoros you do, you're going to take a longer 15 to 30-minute break, or sometimes a little bit longer, especially if it's lunchtime, you want to take a little bit longer. Another tip is when you come back, pop quiz yourself on what you've actually just learned. Pop quiz yourself on what you've just read. You will be actually quite surprised on what your brain has actually been able to retain. Because weirdly enough, what you're doing is you're chunking using this technique. So remember steps 1 to 4, 4 times. And then you're taking a longer break, 15 to 30 minute break. Okay. This, weirdly enough, via this chunking method, will help you feel in control. You'll feel as though you've got purpose. You'll feel as though you've got a good attitude. You'll feel as though you're actually accomplishing something. Even if you only manage to get one piece of work done that day, genuinely you will feel as though you're accomplishing something. And at this stage, because we're all being asked to work online, because we're putting in a heck of a lot of screen time, taking these regular 5-minute breaks will genuinely keep you mentally fresh. 4 to 5 hours on screen a day is the equivalent to a face-to-face 8-hour working day if things were normal and we were actually working with people face-to-face. So actually we're utilising and draining our cognitions a lot quicker working online. So working this way and using a Pomodoro genuinely does work, and it's something I've been doing for years and I do stand by it. So when you get your break, 15 to 30 minutes or even an hour, I'd like you to maybe think about going for a walk, okay? Now here is a really cool picture of actually activity within the brain. So after 20 minutes of sitting quietly, you notice there's not really much activity in the brain. However, after going for a walk, we've got these lovely red and orange and yellow colours showing in the brain scans. This goes to show that actually walking stimulates our brain. So generally what you're also going to do is what you've actually just studied or the type of work you've just done, while you're walking, you're actually digesting all of this, okay? It's doing its job. It's essentially going into the brain where it needs to go into. It's bypassing your short-term memory and it's going into your long-term memory, okay? So going for a walk, believe it or not, is probably one of the best things you can do, and then come back and do another set of Pomodoros. So generally exercise, any form of walking, even just getting outside will help you actually retain the information that you've just done. But then also it'll give you a much needed break away from screens and just generally getting you out and doing a little bit of exercise as well. So we need to change the attitude, okay? We need to actually be saying things such as I can do it rather than I can't. Now you can imagine that if you're sitting in front of a computer or if you're sitting with a piece of work in front of you with your head in your hand saying, I can't do this, I can't do this. Imagine the barrier, imagine the block. Imagine your anxieties. You'll probably find you'll start biting your nails a bit more. You probably find that you'll just end up throwing the towel in. You'll probably find that actually you're talking yourself out of starting as opposed to starting, okay? So it's all about verbals. You're going to need to be really, really, really careful about the type of verbals that you're using towards yourself at the moment. I myself have done it. I've certainly said I can't sometimes and I've had to catch myself and say I can, I just need to try, okay? Now, the Goldilocks dilemma, so thinking not too hard, not too easy, something in between, mixed with the actual, in terms of priority or importance of work, then doing your chunking via the Pomodoro, so 4 times 25-minute bursts, will give you a sense of achievement. That's what we're trying to hit home here, is the sense of achievement, which if we go back to the resilience side of things, that creates good attitude, it creates generally a good response method, okay? And that's what we're trying to encourage today. Chunking helps you feel in control. It simply lets us tick off this to-do list that we've had, makes us feel more physically and psychologically manageable, okay? So generally everything that we've got to do, it just makes it feel more manageable, small little chunks. And can I say, for those of you who are maybe homeschooling at the moment, getting your children to actually follow the Pomodoro would probably benefit them massively. I've certainly been doing it with my son, and he has been flying through his work and then quite happy in the know-how that he's getting a break every 25 minutes. So it might be something you want to consider. It creates resilience. There's that word, that resilience again, but we're on about attitude. We're on about this ability to want to look after your well-being. We're on about this ability to have a change of attitude, a change of mindset, okay? So thinking small and better responses. That's the type of thing we're wanting to try and hit home. It allows you to get active during the day. So remember that brain scan that I've just showed you, going for a walk, going for a run even, deciding to maybe just do a wee bit of yoga or something like that in the house will genuinely help your brain. It'll help boost chemicals, boost hormones, boost the motivational hormone that we're kind of looking for. And it gives a sense of purpose. I can't emphasize this enough. Unfortunately, during this pandemic, we've lost a huge, huge amount of purpose, a sense of meaning. Now, for those of you who have sat within my workshops in the past, I speak about the PERMA model, which is very much around positive psychology. And one of the biggest things out of the PERMA model is finding a meaning. If we don't have a certain purpose or a meaning in what we do, we're less likely to feel as though we're going to achieve. So find the purpose. Now, you've started this course or something that you've started, or even if you're working, genuinely find a purpose, reinvest yourself into it. This is what's going to then give you some sort of a sense of good attitude and somehow of a good response, if that makes sense. So generally responding towards it. Choosing to respond, remember, we're wanting to think small right now. We don't want to be thinking big. At this moment in time, we just need to be thinking the only thing we can control is us. And that's generally what I often say to my clients and students as well. So what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, there's no such thing as perfection, okay? We're needing to just strive to progress at this stage. No such thing as perfection. But for you, if you can feel as though you're progressing small, little pieces at a time through the chunking method that I've explained, generally you will start to feel as though you're making headway, okay? Your anxieties will become a little less. You'll be less likely to worry. You'll be less likely to feel very, very anxious. You will also be less likely to procrastinate on your work, okay? So just to kind of go back quickly, this is the Pomodoro Method that I just want to run through again, okay? And it will help you stay focused and it will help you feel mentally fresh, okay? Follow steps 1 to 4, 4 times, and then take a bigger break. And this will all help with a sense of resilience, okay? It'll give you a belief, it'll make you feel that you've got positive emotions, it'll make you get just a sense of meaning. So we're going on about purpose and meaning again. And generally, it'll make you feel as though you're choosing better responses towards your workload. Let's quickly flick through this again. Okay. So, last but not least, for those of you who have been in my sleep and social media lectures in the past, or certainly you may very well come across it in the future, I need you to be aware we're being pushed online quite a lot, and we're being pushed to certainly work online. I want you to be aware of the amount of hours that you're using your phone. Unfortunately, we use our phones predominantly more in the evenings, particularly when we start to get bored. Remember, and for those of you who are aware of it, it's the 30-30 method. So 30 minutes before you go to bed, come off of your phones, okay? Unfortunately, our lovely, amazing electronics, many computers in our pockets, keep us awake. And generally, it does things to the brain and it stops the melatonin secretion in the brain, which is your sleep hormone. So if you can make sure and come off your phone 30 minutes before, and in the morning, switch your alarm off, but don't look at it. Get up, get yourself dressed, get yourself sorted for the day. Don't go straight on your phone. Unfortunately, there's too much research out there now that's suggesting that the phones are really, really impacting our way of working. Can I also say that just the mere presence of your phone actually impacts your ability to study and stick to the Pomodoro Method. If you can, and only if you can, put your phone on a timer, but put it well out of reach, so you can't just simply go like that and pick the phone up. I would strongly suggest that sometimes, if you can, have a timer via another means, maybe put your phone in another room, okay? But I would just like to say thank you very much for listening to me today, and I hope that some of you will be able to take away generally the methods that I've discussed today, and hopefully you've got a sense of what you're feeling is actually quite normal at the moment, and it's certainly what everybody seems to be feeling currently. But thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks for that. I just want to say that if anybody does have any questions, please pop it in the chat and we'll check it and we'll get back to you. And also keep your eye out, because I'm sure we're going to have Vicki back at some time quite soon. I think just listening to you, Vicki, I mean, your Pomodoro method you're talking about, I think that's something that we all do without even realising it. I was just sitting thinking to myself there, if I've got things that I need to do, I do break them down. I say, well, if I get the dishes done, I put the washing on and I can have a biscuit. Or I can catch up on that TV show. And you do naturally break things down without actually even realising it. So I think it's really useful to keep that in mind. And that sense of achievement, however small the task may be, that sense of achievement can be really massive and give you such a boost.
Absolutely. Yeah, and certainly the Goldilocks, or the Goldilocks dilemma. We believe it or not, we procrastinate so heavily. As soon as we think the task's too big, too large, too hard, or we think the task's too simple, we'll procrastinate. It's just human nature. It's what we do. Like I'd say, I'd rather sit down and have a biscuit and a cup of tea than start that really difficult task or start that really easy task. So if anything, I would say choose the task which you feel is very manageable, but yet also challenges you in some way. Just to feel as though you genuinely do get a bit of a sense of purpose in what you're kind of doing. But yes, it's chunking is massive. Chunking's huge. And certainly if you can chunk up your day as well as your workload the way I've described, it'll just make you feel as though you're in so much more control.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Vicki. And we'll hopefully see you again. Thanks. Bye.